The issue of whether or not your mind is just your body plays in very much to the discussion about whether or not people have free will, or what philosophers call libertarian free will, the kind of free will that would seem to be a necessary precondition of moral responsibility for things. Could you have helped it? Did you have a choice about whether or not you do this, that, or the other? If you're just a physical mechanism behaving according to the laws of physics, does that imply that you have no free will? If you have free will, and you think you've got good arguments for that, perhaps from the fact that it seems obvious that people are morally responsible for what they do, does that imply that humans are more than just machines, and so on? So there's an interesting interplay of arguments here about human nature and freedom and responsibility. So I like telling this little story that brings out our intuitions about the relationship between libertarian free will and moral responsibility. Supposing you see someone walking along on a beach underneath a cliff, and a pebble falls through the air and hits them on the head, okay? And you know that this is the explanation they believe as to why they've been hit on the head. At the top of the cliff, there used to live this little pebble in the soil, and then there was lots of soil erosion and so on that exposed the stone to the elements. And then today, a particularly large gust of wind just happened to come along from the right direction. The stone fell off the cliff, bounced off the cliff according to the laws of Newtonian mechanics, and just happened to hit them on the head. They believe that that's why they've been hit on the head. You would think it absolutely ludicrous for that person to then start blaming the stone and the soil erosion and the wind and the gravity for having hurt them, and holding it responsible for having hurt them. Of course, they can say that that's the cause of why I've been hurt, but it would be stupid for them to blame, morally speaking, that series of physical interactions for hurting them. And yet, if one person throws a stone at another person, the person who's been hurt is obviously within their rights to hold morally responsible, morally blameworthy, the person who threw the stone at them. But that shows that we intuitively believe that people are not just a physical system of interacting physical things behaving according to the laws of physics. Because if a person were just a much more complicated example of the story about the stone and the soil erosion and the gravity hurting someone, it just wouldn't make sense to hold them morally responsible. So if you think it does make sense to hold them morally responsible, you surely also have to think it makes sense to think that they are more than a purely physical system of things just behaving according to the laws of physics, that there must be something real about them that transcends the physical and which explains their moral responsibility.